I'm Beatrix. When I was 6, my father drove me to a gas station in the middle of nowhere and just left. No goodbye, no turning back. I waited all night, thinking it was my fault. Turns out, that was only the beginning. My family didn't just abandon me, they erased me. From their home, from their memories, even from the family will. They said I was unstable, that I didn't belong. But what if the truth was never about me, but about what they were trying to hide? What kind of mother pays to make her child disappear? And why? After all these years, are they still afraid of my name? People talk about the moment their life changed like it's some big, dramatic event. A car crash, a diagnosis, a wedding gone wrong. But mine? Mine was quiet. I was 6 years old when my father pulled off the road and left me at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. No fireworks, no yelling, just the sound of tires on gravel and a door that never opened again. I still remember the smell in that car, old leather, stale coffee, and something else I couldn't place back then. Something like finality. He didn't say much during that drive, just hummed along to some dusty country song on the radio and nodded when I pointed out shapes in the clouds. I thought he was tired, or maybe he had something on his mind. What 6-year-old thinks, "This is the last time I'll see my dad?" When we pulled into Elmridge, I didn't even know the town's name. It was winter. The sky looked bruised, like it was holding back snow, and the gas station he chose felt ancient, like it had been forgotten by time. He parked near the edge, engine still running, and turned to me with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, sweetheart, I need you to do me a favor, all right?" I nodded, eager to please, always eager to please. "Go inside and grab us 2 hot chocolates. I'll be right here." I'll be right here. I held on to those 4 words like a blanket. It didn't even occur to me not to trust him. I slipped out of the car, sneakers crunching over frozen dirt, and pushed open the glass door that jingled like an old wind chime. The man behind the counter looked like he'd been carved from stone. Barely glanced at me when I asked for the drinks. I remember the cup was too hot in my hands, and I kept switching back and forth as I waited for Dad to come through the door. 10 minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. At some point, the guy behind the counter asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. After all, Dad said he'd be right back. I just had to be patient. 2 hours later, I stepped outside and saw only an empty spot where the car had been. No tire marks, no note, just silence and that sinking, cold realization that something was horribly wrong. A police cruiser showed up around dusk. I don't even remember who called them. Maybe the gas station guy finally decided I wasn't just some lost kid waiting for a parent in a long line. The officers tried calling my mother. I watched them whisper to each other, their eyes flicking toward me, like I was some problem they didn't want to deal with. She said, "She doesn't want custody." One of them finally told the other, not knowing I could hear. Not custody. Not me. They used words like abandoned and orphaned, words I had only ever heard in Disney movies. And just like that, my life went from a regular Tuesday to a case number. The next morning, Ruthin came. She was my dad's older sister. I'd only met her twice before, and both times she'd worn too much perfume and looked like she was trying hard not to stay long. This time, she looked like someone had smacked her across the face with bad news. "I didn't even know she was in town," she mumbled to the officer. Then her eyes met mine. She hesitated, then crouched down. "Hi, Beatrix. I guess it's you and me now." It was only years later, after the damage had already soaked into my bones, that I learned about the envelope. A week before that road trip, Dad had received something in the mail. A manila envelope he refused to open in front of Mom. Ruthin found it stuffed in a drawer months later, unopened but clearly tampered with. Inside, a DNA test. You know how people say family isn't about blood? They usually mean it in a good way. But in my case, it was a curse. That test was the excuse he needed. Maybe he'd always suspected I wasn't his. Maybe the timing didn't add up. Maybe Mom had told him something that broke him inside. Whatever the reason, he didn't confront. He didn't ask. He just drove. As a kid, I thought I must have done something, gotten a grade wrong, forgotten to brush my teeth, spilled juice on the carpet one too many times. I spent years trying to earn back a place I didn't even know I'd lost. But what hurt more than being left behind was learning I was never supposed to exist at all. I used to think that being left behind was the worst thing a parent could do to their child. But being forgotten, erased, cuts deeper. It doesn't leave bruises. It leaves blank spaces where love should have been. Ruthin didn't have much. Her bookstore smelled like paper, dust, and cinnamon gum. It was the only thing she inherited from her late husband, and most of the time, she seemed more overwhelmed than nurturing. Still, she cleared out the cramped storage room in the back and told me I could stay there as long as I needed. As long as I needed. The same way you tell someone you'll call them later, knowing you won't. She bought me a tiny pink lamp from a garage sale and placed it beside the mattress she'd laid out on crates. That lamp glowed like hope, but I kept my suitcase zipped for weeks. A part of me didn't believe this was permanent. Another part prayed it wasn't. School started a month later. Ruthin walked me there on my first day, holding my hand like she was trying to convince herself she had this under control. I could feel her palm sweating against mine. At school, I didn't speak much. Kids asked where my parents were. I told them I lived in a bookstore. Some looked at me like I was lying. Others asked if I'd been in jail. One boy whispered, "She's the one they left at the gas station." And that rumor stuck harder than glue. Even teachers treated me differently. One of them called me sweetheart in that voice adults use when they think you're broken. Another kept pulling me aside, saying things like, "Are you okay, Beatrix? You know you can talk to us." But I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to disappear, or at least become someone no one noticed. Then, one rainy afternoon, Ruthin called me into the front of the store. Her eyes were darting like she was reading through something she didn't want me to see. She handed me a manila envelope. "This is from your mother's lawyer," she said, voice tight. Inside were the court documents. Celeste Fenn, my mother, in the legal sense, had signed away all parental rights. My name wasn't just crossed out, it was missing. Entire lines had been rewritten, like I'd never been there to begin with. "I didn't want you to see that," Ruthin muttered, trying to take it back. But I held it tighter. It didn't feel like losing something. It felt like being erased with intention. Later that night, I overheard Ruthin on the phone, whispering behind the stacks of hardcovers. "They told me not to talk about her, said it's better for everyone if she just fades out." Like she was a phase. A phase. That word hit harder than any slap. Years later, when I was old enough to open bank mail without asking, I found a strange statement in Ruthin's drawer. A quiet transfer had been made from Fenn and Maddox, LLP, to her account. A large amount. Dated around the time I moved in. When I asked her about it, her face dropped. "I didn't take it for me," she said quickly. "Your mother offered, no, demanded, that I take it if I was going to keep you. It wasn't hush money, I swear. I couldn't afford to feed you, Beatrix." The worst part? I believed her, and still, it stung. What was I? A responsibility someone got paid to carry? A monthly expense? Was I a child or just a transaction? I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I went to the back room, opened the drawer of the little pink lamp, and took out my notebook. I flipped past the pages of doodles and copied homework until I reached a blank page. With a dull pencil, I wrote one sentence and underlined it 3 times. Beatrix Fenn. No matter what they say. That night, I whispered it over and over, like a prayer to whatever God might still be listening. Because if they were going to spend their lives pretending I didn't exist, then I would spend mine proving I did. I didn't know it then, but I wasn't the only one being broken from the inside. I hadn't heard from Kian in over a decade, not since the day I watched his face from across a courtroom lobby as he held our mother's hand and turned his back to me. We didn't speak that day. We didn't even look each other in the eye, and I told myself it was better that way. So when his message appeared on my phone one night, "Do you ever think about them?" My breath caught like I'd stepped off a ledge. Them. My fingers hovered above the screen. Half of me wanted to delete it. The other half wanted to say yes, every damn day. Instead, I stared at the blinking cursor. I thought of the journal under my bed, with my name written over and over like a lifeline. I thought of how many nights I'd wondered if Kian ever asked about me, if he remembered we were made from the same house, even if I was the one they burned down. Eventually, I replied, "Sometimes. Why?" He didn't answer right away. Kian had always been the favorite. The golden boy. The one who made honor roll, smiled on cue, and never left a single sock on the floor. Celeste used to introduce him at dinner parties, like a trophy she could take credit for. And yet, behind that perfect fen facade, something had started to shift. What I didn't know then, but he would later tell me, was that it began with a locked drawer in our father's office. Kian had been looking for a phone charger, of all things, a stupid little wire, but the drawer wouldn't budge. Curiosity got the better of him. He found the key taped under the desk, exactly where Magnus used to hide Christmas presents. Inside, instead of electronics or old tax forms, he found a thin file stamped confidential in red. He told me he almost didn't open it, that he stared at my name typed in bold letters across the top and felt his stomach twist. The report inside was clinical, emotionless. Terms like emotionally volatile, resistant to authority, and attachment issues were used like bullets on a page. I was 5 years old when that file was written. Why did they keep this? He asked me later. Why would they save something like that unless it meant something to them? I didn't have the heart to tell him I already knew. That file was their justification, their proof that I wasn't fit to be loved. And now, it was breaking him too. He started playing piano again. Secretly, quietly, only late at night, when the house was asleep. Not the classical crap our mother forced him into, but raw, dissonant chords. His own sound. He told me the music was the only thing that didn't feel like a lie. Then, one night, my phone lit up again. It was a voice note. I tapped play, and his voice came through, shaky but steady. "I think I understand now. And I'm sorry. I should have asked questions. I should have found you sooner. I didn't know how to be anything other than what they made me. But I think I'm ready now. If you are?" I sat on the floor of my office at the counseling center, knees pulled to my chest, replaying the message 5 times. 10. I closed my eyes and heard us as kids, chasing each other down the hallway. Before the silence. Before the divide. I typed one word and hit send. Coffee? I didn't know what I expected. Maybe he'd say no. Maybe this was a glitch in our timeline, and it would collapse again the second I hoped. But he replied almost instantly. "Name the place." So I did. A quiet little diner near the edge of Elmridge, the kind with cracked booths and burnt coffee, where the past didn't matter and no one asked questions. The next morning, we sat across from each other for the first time in 22 years. He looked older, of course, but tired in a way that didn't belong to youth. "You ever wonder if they just made us up?" he asked, stirring his coffee with a chipped spoon. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "All the time," I said. "We didn't talk about the report, not that day. We didn't need to. It was there between us, thick as fog. What mattered wasn't the file. It was the fracture it left in him. The mirror he'd been forced to hold up and realize. Perfection had a cost, and neither of us was prepared for what we'd uncover next." Kian and I sat in the booth long after the coffee had gone cold. The silence between us was no longer sharp. It was heavy, but bearable. He fidgeted with a sugar packet while I traced circles on the rim of my mug. "I don't know who I am without them," he said quietly. I let that sit for a second before replying, "Maybe that's the best part." He gave a sad smile, but didn't argue. I wanted to ask him about the file, if he believed it, if it changed how he saw me. But I didn't. Not yet. That day wasn't about dragging ghosts out into daylight. It was about recognizing that we both had them. After we said goodbye, I walked back to the bookstore with a strange ache in my chest. Not pain, not quite. More like the shifting weight of something long buried starting to stir. Ruthin was in the attic, digging through boxes for a community donation drive. I offered to help, partly out of guilt, partly out of restlessness. Most of it was junk. Old Christmas lights, paperback romances with yellowed pages, a broken lamp that had survived 3 moves. Then I spotted a metal folder shoved between 2 crates of outdated tax files. It was labeled in faded black marker, Fen, private. I knew better than to ignore something like that. Inside were papers, neatly clipped. Most were bland. Property records, old bills. But near the bottom was a thick envelope, sealed with a wax stamp. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a copy of my grandfather's will. Not the version I'd seen referenced in the news or court summaries years ago. This one named 2 heirs, Beatrix Fen. Me. I sat down hard on the attic floor, breath catching in my throat. Ruthin peeked over the edge of a box. "What is it?" I handed her the paper. Her eyes widened. God! I forgot this even existed." "You forgot?" My voice cracked. "Years ago," she said, almost in a whisper. "Celeste came by, said she was cleaning out some of the family records, asked if I had anything left over from your grandfather. I didn't remember this file. I thought it was just tax junk." "Why didn't you check?" My voice rose. "I didn't think she'd lie to me," Ruthin said, her face pale. "I didn't think." But she had. Of course she had. Celeste never asked questions without motive, and she'd clearly intended to erase any trace of me, legally, financially, historically. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid awake replaying every moment I'd spent believing I was invisible, unwanted, a fluke. But this proved I wasn't just forgotten. I was eliminated. I pulled out the will again and reread the line with my name. It was right there. Black ink on aged paper. They didn't just throw me away. I whispered to no one. They buried me. The shame I'd carried for years, wondering what was wrong with me, why I couldn't be loved, morphed into something else. Not rage, not yet, but power. I wasn't broken. I was buried. There's a difference. The next morning, I called an old friend who'd gone into estate law. I didn't give her details, just asked a simple question. Hypothetically, what happens if someone illegally suppresses a legal heir? She paused, then said, "Depends." "But it's serious, like felony serious." I thanked her and hung up. My hands were steady as I filed the will into a locked drawer in my desk at the counseling center. Then I stood in the doorway, staring into the warm, quiet space I'd built for other people to heal. "They tried to erase me," I said aloud, to the books, the carpet, the silence. "Now let's see who they really are when the masks fall off." I didn't need revenge. I needed the truth to breathe. The folder hadn't left my desk since the night I found it. Sometimes I'd open it just to see my name on that page again, like I was making sure it was still real, still mine. But staring at truth and using it were 2 very different things. So I met with Serena, a former classmate turned estate lawyer. We sat across from each other in a booth at the only decent cafe in Elmridge, her laptop glowing between us and a stack of legal pads cluttering the table. She flipped through the scanned copy of the will, her brow furrowed. "It's valid," she said finally. "Your grandfather never signed a revocation or amendment. Unless they can produce one, this document holds weight." "And if they buried it on purpose?" "That's fraud, Beatrix. It's serious. But the second you act on this, publicly or legally, you're opening a door that won't close again. Are you sure?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Back at my office, I sat down with pen and paper, not a keyboard. I wanted the weight of every word I wrote to be felt. By me, by her. I wasn't angry, not in that moment. Just done being quiet. The letter was calm, measured, no threats, no accusations, just truth laid out like a chessboard. Celeste, I have come across a version of the will that names me as co-heir. It was not revoked. I understand what this means. I have no interest in a war, but if forced, I will defend my right to exist. I ask for discretion and resolution. Silence will not protect you anymore. Beatrix. I sent it through Serena's office using a bonded courier. Within 24 hours, I got a call from Ruthin. You sent it? She asked. Yes. She exhaled hard into the phone. You're brave. But listen. Celeste doesn't respond to polite. She responds to threat. That's not who I am, I told her. But it's who she is. 3 days passed. Nothing. On the 4th morning, I found Keon waiting on the front steps of my center, hoodie pulled up, duffel bag beside him. He looked like he hadn't slept. I'm leaving, he said. I blinked. What happened? She found out I helped you, said I was jeopardizing the family name. He laughed bitterly. Dad just sat there, polishing his glasses like we were talking about the weather. You don't have to do this, I said quietly. Yes, I do, he replied. They don't own me either. I wanted to say I was proud of him. I wanted to hug him. But all I could manage was to take his bag and bring him inside. That night, while he slept in the spare room, I checked my email. One new message. No sender name, no subject. Just a single sentence in the body. They're prepping a media campaign. You'll be the bitter illegitimate. Be ready. I didn't know who sent it. I didn't care. I stood up, walked out into the chill of the Elmridge night, and stared up at the moon. They think dragging me into the spotlight will break me, I whispered. Then I smiled. Tight, small, but real. They don't know what I've had to survive just to stand here. And just like that, they turned me into a headline. I woke up to my face staring back at me from a news alert. There it was, cropped from a photo I hadn't even known was taken. Me standing in front of the counseling center, arms crossed, tired eyes, hair pulled back on a windy day. Underneath it, the headline in bold, Estranged Daughter and Disoriented Son, the Fenn Family's Quiet Struggle. I clicked before I could even breathe. The article was glossy, clinical, designed to look balanced, but bleeding manipulation between every line. It painted me as a troubled, bitter outsider, estranged for years due to emotional volatility and unresolved personal issues. It described Kean as recently experiencing a mental health crisis and under close psychiatric review, citing an unnamed family source. There was no source. There was just Celeste. I dropped my phone. It clattered to the floor, screen still lit. Beatrix! Kean's voice echoed through the house. He stormed in from the guest room, his face pale and jaw clenched. He held his phone up like it was burning him. They said I'm in a facility. They're telling people I'm unstable, that I relapsed. You were never diagnosed with anything, I said, standing up. They don't care, he spat. She's telling people I broke down, that you triggered it, that I'm confused, too fragile to be taken seriously. She said I needed professional intervention. His hands shook. I haven't cried in 10 years, B. I think I'm about to now. I put my hand on his shoulder. You won't cry, not now, not over them. You're going to fight. He looked at me like he didn't know how. I'll help you, I promised. But we can't hide anymore. I reached out to a journalist named Emery Langston, someone I'd met through a client, someone who didn't work for clicks, but for clarity. Emery agreed to meet in person. No cameras, no tricks. Just my voice, my truth. I sat across from her in the back of the bookstore. Kean stayed nearby, out of frame, but within reach. Emery placed a recorder between us and said, "Speak when you're ready." So I did. I told her about the attic, the will, the letter, the silence. I told her how Celeste tried to scrub me from existence, like a redacted footnote in her perfect narrative. I spoke about shame, about growing up in the absence of answers, about how they taught Kian to see me as a shadow. I didn't raise my voice once. I didn't insult them. But I told the truth. The story ran within 48 hours. Online first, then syndicated. It hit a nerve. Comments poured in from strangers who recognized their own families in mine. Survivors of silence. Children of image-obsessed households. Adults who had once been erased. "You're not crazy," one anonymous message read. "We saw what they did. We all did. We just didn't say anything." Old family staff, a former nanny, even a former colleague of Magnus's who admitted he never looked anyone in the eye when your name came up. For once, I wasn't alone. The next morning, I posted the original will on my center's website. No fanfare, no hashtags. Just a clean PDF and one line typed in bold above it. You can't erase what was written in truth. It wasn't about inheritance. It never had been. It was about reclaiming the name they tried to bury. About giving people like me permission to stop apologizing for being born unwanted. But Celeste never played fair. And her next move was the dirtiest yet. The envelope was thick, stamped with gold lettering, and hand-delivered by a man who didn't bother hiding his discomfort. I didn't even have to open it to know. Celeste had finally shown her teeth. Inside, a formal summons. Celeste Fenn versus Beatrix Fenn, charges. Defamation. Breach of privacy. Fraudulent claim to inheritance. Attached was a demand for immediate removal of my name from all references to the will. They alleged I'd forged the document, manipulated public perception, and caused irreparable harm to the Fenn family's legacy. I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was textbook Celeste. She couldn't destroy the truth, so she'd try to bury it under legal jargon and PR tactics. She wasn't trying to win in court. She was trying to exhaust me, drown me in paperwork and headlines until I backed down. But she had no idea how far I'd already crawled just to stand this tall. That night, as I sat in the glow of my desk lamp, another memory surfaced, one I hadn't touched in years. I was 6, hiding behind the tall staircase at the Missoula house, my knees pressed to the floor, holding my breath, trying to be invisible. I heard my father say, "We can't carry this forever, Celeste. It'll ruin everything." And her reply, calm and cold, "Then we cut the rot before it spreads." Back then, I didn't understand. Now, I did. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was damage control. And here they were, doing it all over again. The next morning, Kian knocked on my door. He looked tired, but clear-eyed. He held up a folder. "I filed an affidavit," he said. My throat tightened. "You did what?" "I wrote down everything. How they handled you, how they used me, how Mom made me believe you were dangerous. I called her what she is, a woman more invested in image than truth." He set the file on the counter and stepped back. If they're going to lie under oath, I won't stand next to them. When we walked into the Missoula courthouse that Friday morning, the air was thick with cameras and whispers. Sketch artists, reporters. Half of them didn't know who I was last month. Now I was the daughter who won't stay quiet. Celeste arrived in a pristine cream suit, hair perfect, expression blank. She didn't look at me. Good. I sat at the petitioner's table. My hands didn't shake. When it was my turn, I stood. The room was dead quiet. "I'm not here to reclaim money," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not even here to punish. I'm here because when I was 6, I was thrown away. Now I'm being told I was never meant to belong in the first place. If being erased was their goal, then I'm standing here to prove I survived it." I sat back down. I didn't need applause. I needed the silence that followed. The next day, the internet exploded. Courtroom sketches of me facing down Celeste circulated like wildfire. Articles with titles like "The Daughter They Couldn't Silence" and "Family Erasure is Real, One Woman's Fight for Identity" trended nationally. I got emails from strangers, survivors, former staff. One woman, a retired housekeeper, who used to work for the Fenns, simply wrote, "We knew. We all knew. I'm sorry." But I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. Because the court wasn't the only place Celeste planned to fight, and she had one last card left to play. The room was too quiet, one of those soundproof conference spaces that made every breath feel louder than it should. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly above my head, and across from me, Celeste sat perfectly composed in a beige suit and pearl earrings, like nothing about this moment threatened her. But her eyes were different. There was no fire in them, no smugness, just calculation. Cold, clipped calculation. Her lawyer slid the document across the table toward me. It was crisp, freshly printed. I didn't even need to read it. "Sign this," Celeste said, voice smooth as glass. "You withdraw your claim to the will, issue a formal statement of closure, and I make all of this disappear." I stared at the pen she'd placed beside the folder. Neatly aligned. A final attempt at control, dressed as generosity. "And if I don't?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Then you continue down this exhausting path. Court. Press your little supporters, eventually move on. The spotlight fades. You're left holding a name no one will care about." She said it like a warning. I heard it as a promise. I didn't move. I didn't touch the pen. Instead, I let myself drift. Just for a moment. Back to that night. 6 years old. The gas station's flickering lights. My legs numb from cold. My hands shaking as I waited. My voice cracked from saying the same thing over and over. "Please come back." I hadn't realized until this moment that I wasn't speaking to him anymore. I was speaking to me. To the little girl I used to be. The one who needed someone, anyone, to tell her she mattered. Present-day me closed my eyes. For the first time, I whispered it back. "I'm here." I opened my eyes and looked directly at Celeste. "I'm not here for your money," I said. "I'm not here for your legacy. I'm here because you tried to erase me, and I want my name back." Her jaw clenched, but she said nothing. "I was erased from your family portrait, your estate plans, your memory, but not from reality. I exist, I survived, and you don't get to silence me again." I pushed the paper back across the table, untouched. Celeste flinched. Not visibly, but I saw it in her fingers. The tiny tremble she couldn't suppress. For the first time, she didn't look like a woman in charge. She looked cornered. 2 days later, the judge ruled in my favor. The will was upheld. I was legally reinstated as a rightful heir. Celeste's claims were dismissed. There was no jail time, no dramatic courtroom fall from grace. She left through a back exit, her lawyer shielding her from cameras. But she lost something she couldn't buy back. Her version of the story. And for a woman like Celeste, that was the real punishment. That night, I stood outside Haven House, the porch light casting long shadows across the street. I held a mug of tea in both hands, warm against the December air. Snow fell in lazy flurries around me. I closed my eyes and whispered. Not to her, not to the world, but to the little girl inside me, still waiting outside that gas station. You survived. You were never crazy. And they don't get to write your ending. I won the fight. But healing, that would take a different kind of strength. The headlines faded faster than I expected. 1 week, I was front-page material. Estranged daughter reclaims her name. And the next, I was just another story buried beneath the next scandal, the next outrage. I didn't miss the noise. Haven House returned to its rhythm. Kids laughing down the hallway, paint-smudged hands during art therapy, mismatched shoes piled by the music room door. People smiled when they passed me. Some hugged me. Others called me inspiring. I thanked them all, but inside I felt quiet. Not empty. Not exactly. Just still. It turns out winning doesn't put the pieces back. It doesn't unweight the hours I sat in the cold outside that gas station. It doesn't pull back the years of silence, of doubt, of shame. It just ends the war. Celeste never showed her face again. No press conferences, no interviews, no public rebuttal. She didn't even issue a formal apology. She didn't need to. People knew. That was enough. Kian cut contact, moved into a small apartment near the edge of town, and started teaching music therapy at Haven House. We worked in the same building most days, and sometimes we'd share lunch. But we didn't talk about her, not anymore. We just lived. I got used to the quiet, learned to enjoy the mundane. Grocery shopping with Ruthin on Saturdays. Early walks before the kids arrived. The smell of vanilla candles mixed with poster paint and hot cocoa in the winter. I stopped waiting for justice. I started looking for peace. One night in early January, I found a letter in the back of my closet. It was written in my handwriting, years old. Folded, worn, unsent. It was addressed to Celeste, page after page of questions. Why did you leave me? Why didn't you stop him? Why did you hate me for existing? I read it once, then again. Then I fed it into the fireplace. The paper curled and blackened, its edges crumbling before the flames even touched the ink. And just like that, I let it go. Some answers, I decided, don't matter anymore. A few days later, I walked past the gas station. The same one, same cracked concrete, same tired signage buzzing faintly under the morning sky. I hadn't been back since the night everything shattered. I was going to keep walking. Then I saw her. A little girl, no more than 6, sitting on the curb beside a rusty pump, arms wrapped around her knees. Alone. My breath caught in my throat. I walked over slowly, heart pounding, voice tight. "Hey, sweetie, are you okay?" She looked up. Big brown eyes, flushed cheeks. "I'm waiting for my mom. She just went inside." And sure enough, a woman stepped out of the convenience store a few seconds later, calling her name. The girl smiled and ran to her without a second glance. I stood there, watching. And then I cried. Not out of pain, not out of anger, but because something inside me finally let go. The little girl who had once waited alone wasn't waiting anymore. She had me now. Not every wound disappears, but some become maps, showing us how to walk away and never return. I used to believe that survival was about staying invisible, about not causing waves, not asking questions, not needing more than I was given. But I've learned something. Silence doesn't protect you. It only protects the people who benefit from your silence. If you've ever been made to feel like you didn't belong, even in your own family, let me say this to you. You do. You matter. Not because someone else says so, not because you're perfect, but because you are here. And no one gets to rewrite your story but you. In life, we don't always get apologies. We don't always get justice wrapped up in a bow. But we can choose peace. We can choose growth. We can choose to stop bleeding for people who never even tried to stop the cut. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of a truth you've been carrying, or a lie you're tired of living under, don't just scroll past. Let's talk. Tell me, what would you say to your younger self if you could go back? Drop a comment below. If this story touched your heart, leave a 1 or let me know where you're watching from. If it made you uncomfortable, I'd still love to hear why. Maybe that's where the healing starts. And hey, if you made it this far, you're part of this community now, so don't miss what's next. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next story that might just speak to your soul. Because sometimes a stranger's story helps us finally understand our own.
Absolutely not. Why would a low-level employee like you use paid leave to come to a luxury hotel like this? Don't mess with me. Approval for paid leave. That was just to keep you guessing, obviously. I never imagined you'd actually take time off to come here. This was the day I took my mother to a luxury hotel as a Mother's Day present. My arrogant boss was waiting for me at the hotel, yelling and looking down on me with disdain. But he doesn't know my mother is not just any ordinary woman, and that his life was about to take a turn for the worse. My name is Kevin. I grew up in a single-parent household after my parents divorced when I was young. From a young age, I noticed how busy my mother was, working hard to provide for us. As a kid left in daycare, I was always the last one to be picked up. "Hey, Mr. Johnson, where's my mom?" "Not here yet. She'll be a bit later. Wanna play with blocks?" "I guess, but all my friends have gone home already." "Then let's build a big truck with the blocks together." Mr. Johnson at the daycare probably felt sorry for me waiting for my mom every evening. He always suggested fun activities to keep me entertained. Even in elementary school, life wasn't much different. Unlike daycare, which cared for me until 7:00 p.m., after-school programs only went until 6:00 p.m. and cost extra for extended hours. After 6:00 p.m., I would walk home alone on dark streets, watching other kids leave with their parents. Sometimes friends' parents worried about me and offered me a ride home, but it felt more miserable, and I hated them seeing my dark, empty house. So I would rush home alone. I never expressed my loneliness or frustration to my mother. Even as a child, I understood she was working hard. I had a vague sense of our financial struggles and debt, so I kept my feelings to myself, enduring the loneliness silently. As I got older, I turned to sports to distract myself from the loneliness. Sweating and focusing on sports helped me forget the unpleasantness. My childhood was a battle against this loneliness. Thanks to my mother's hard work, our living situation gradually improved. In high school, I was active in sports clubs and worked part-time on my days off. But it wasn't to earn living expenses. My mother's efforts meant it was just for pocket money. Like my friends, I was earning money just for fun. Around that time, I started thinking about my future education. One day, with parent-teacher meetings approaching, I brought it up to my mother. Private universities are a bit too much, but you can go to any public university department you like if you want to pursue higher education. Her response surprised me. "Really? Of course. You've been through a lot. I want to let you study as much as you want." "Thanks, Mom. I'll go to college. I'll study hard and get into a public university, so don't worry." "Sorry, Kevin. Thank you." I researched universities that were affordable and within commuting distance from home and studied relentlessly. Balancing work and study was tough, but my mock exam results were promising. "If you keep up these grades, you're likely to get in," my teacher assured me at the parent-teacher-student conference. Encouraged by this, I confidently took my university entrance exams and succeeded, getting into a public university. As a college student, I increased my working hours, but never slacked off in my studies. It was a university I had worked hard to get into. I didn't want to waste that opportunity. I packed my 4 years with lectures, earning more credits than necessary. I also actively participated in club activities, making for a fulfilling 4 years. After graduation, I got a job in the textile industry. Textile work requires a delicate sensibility, but also the physical strength to handle heavy fabric rolls. Thanks to my sports background, I was pretty confident about my physical abilities. As for the delicate sensibility, that's something I'm still looking to polish. Sensibility is honed on the job. "Don't worry," Michael from the sales department told me. His words made me realize that although promotion is great, I wanted to work in the field as long as possible. Once you climb the corporate ladder, you end up doing more paperwork and attending more meetings than actual field work. I shared this view with my peers. "You're quite the unique one," they said. I wondered if most people prefer to climb the career ladder quickly and work comfortably in an office. It seemed I was a rare type. Under Michael's guidance, I worked hard, often meeting demanding requests from clients. Saying I dedicated most of my 20s to work wouldn't be an exaggeration. My life revolved around the company, awake or asleep. Then, one day, everything changed. Cancer? I hesitated to tell you, but being honest is better than causing unnecessary speculation. This is terrible, but it's early, so it's not an immediate threat. Michael had gathered us before work to disclose his cancer diagnosis. Discovered early, there was a chance of recovery and return, but at 55, he decided to take early retirement. I'm sorry to spring this on you so suddenly. I'll ensure a smooth transition and won't burden you further, he said. But are you really okay? Will you recover? There's no guarantee in medicine, but the chances are good with early detection. I won't be gone just yet. Make sure to visit me sometimes. Michael was overwhelmed. I couldn't help but cry, and Michael gently patted my back. Due to his illness, he quickly transitioned his responsibilities and left the workplace a few days later. His successor as department head was David. Hey, starting today, I'm the head of this department. I expect respect, everyone's cooperation with me in charge. Lax work won't be tolerated. Be prepared to work hard. His greeting conveyed a sense of unease, causing frowns among us. But David seemed oblivious. He was someone none of us expected to get promoted to a management position. To put it bluntly, he wasn't exactly known for his competence. But with Michael's sudden retirement, David, by virtue of seniority, unexpectedly landed the role. He disliked being told what to do, often begrudgingly agreeing to Michael's instructions. He was also known for lashing out at objects and yelling at juniors, not the kind of person you hear good things about. Until now, Michael had kept him in check, preventing any major issues. But now, with Michael gone and David promoted, there was virtually no one to stop him. Moreover, it seemed David didn't quite grasp that it's already the modern era. I'm heading out now. I was finishing up my day's work, ready to leave at the regular time. Hey, Kevin, it's still regular hours. Why are you leaving? David asked, genuinely puzzled. Well, it is the end of my shift, and I've finished today's work, so I'm heading home. What are you talking about? Just because you finished today's work doesn't mean you can just leave. There's always more to do. And you guys too, don't just talk about today's work. Keep looking ahead and keep working. That way, we can secure more contracts, which is only good for the company. Stay late as much as possible. Those who leave on time are incompetent. Work harder. David announced this proudly in front of everyone, leaving us all dumbstruck. Then, when a junior employee tried to take annual leave, "Hey, I heard you applied for an annual leave." Yes. What are you thinking? He confronted him sharply. Well, everyone else is working hard. You think you can just take an annual leave? Don't mess around. If you have time to spare, work. No, that day is for a family memorial service. I've taken annual leaves before, and it was never an issue, so what? I'm the boss now. Forget everything that happened before. From now on, taking annual leave is not allowed. His excessively tyrannical behaviour left everyone in the department bewildered. There was even this incident. Who arrives at the last minute like that? As a punishment, come an hour early tomorrow and clean the office. He dished out such senseless penalties. In another instance, we've met this month's target, but it's still not enough. Tomorrow is Saturday, but I'm calling a meeting, so everyone shows up at the usual time. He also ordered us to come in on a day off for a mysterious meeting. Each time, we all voiced our concerns, but David didn't care. It seemed he had been frustrated for a long time, unable to secure a higher position, and now, as a manager, he was taking out his frustrations on us. "Hey, Kevin, how's it going?" he said one day. "Good evening." "Well, as usual." "That's good, but at your age, still being just a regular employee, isn't that a bit incompetent? Bottom of the barrel at your age. It's pretty clear what your future holds, right? It's only a matter of time before the newbies surpass you. Well, anyway, try not to let the newbies overtake you. And of course, I'm counting on you for overtime tonight." David patted my shoulder and walked away, leaving me with nothing but a sigh. A few months passed since David took over. Mother's Day is coming up soon, and I thought I'd splurge on a gift. "That's right. It'll be your first Mother's Day since you started working, Jess. So I was thinking maybe a short trip nearby, perhaps an overnight stay." "That sounds wonderful. Your mom will be thrilled." "But then I have to do the same for Father's Day, right? I'm thinking about where to go. They both love hot springs, so maybe somewhere with hot springs." Hearing two female colleagues discuss this, I glanced at the calendar. Right, Mother's Day is coming up. Every year, I take my mom out for dinner, but maybe this year, I'll splurge on a luxury hotel for an overnight trip. That's what I was thinking. And as they say, strike while the iron is hot. Figuring that reservations for Mother's Day would fill up quickly, I quickly searched on my cell phone while having lunch. I made the reservation early. Then I returned to the office and immediately applied for a day off. Until the day of the trip, things were relatively calm. I was sure I'd be reprimanded for taking a day off. I was even prepared to be scolded in front of everyone. But surprisingly, nothing was said. In fact, my application was approved the next day, which left me astonished. "Kevin, you seem to be in good spirits lately. Something good will happen." "I don't think so, just the usual." "Well, that's good. Keep up the good work, as always." David was in too good of a mood, almost frighteningly so. "Well, as long as things continue peacefully, that's all that matters." But I couldn't shake the feeling of calm before a storm. Then came the day of the trip. In the morning, my mom and I enjoyed sightseeing around the hotel. "Well, can we really stay in a place like this?" "Yeah, I'll go check in now. Just wait here, thank you." While my mom excitedly explored the luxurious hotel, I went to the front desk to check in. But I stopped in my tracks when I saw someone who shouldn't be there. "Ah, David." "Kevin, why are you here?" "David, what do you mean, why am I here? Why is a low-level employee like you using annual leave to come to a luxury hotel like this? Don't mess around." David grabbed me by the collar, began yelling. I was shocked and confused. "But you approved my annual leave request, didn't you?" I complained about that. Indeed, David had approved my annual leave for today. Why am I being yelled at now? And in a place like this? That was just to lead you on. I never thought you'd actually take the day off and come here. Lead me on. I don't understand what you mean. Are you kidding me? Ha! I'd like to see the face of a parent who raised such an incompetent person, who can't even understand their own position. What? The face of your parent? I want to see the face of the parent who raised such an incompetent person. David seemed to relish in saying such things. First of all, you don't even do unpaid overtime, and you seem to have no ambition for promotion, staying a regular employee forever. What's wrong with you? Don't you want to get promoted? If you work overtime every day, show some determination and grit. Otherwise, the higher-ups won't value you. Well, you might not understand what I'm saying, being incompetent and all. Sorry for speaking about complex things. He kept ranting whatever he wanted. Feeling the painful stares of those around me, I knew I had to do something about this situation. Hearing the commotion, my mother walked over, realizing something. I turned back to face David. "David, what are you saying? Here is my mother." Saying that, I stepped aside to let my mother forward, causing David to freeze in shock. "What? Why are you here?" "Well, hello. I suppose this is our first meeting outside the office, isn't it?" "Why? What does this mean?" "Oh, you know who I am. I assumed I was quite unknown within the company, as we rarely meet." "No way, not knowing our chairman's face. That's impossible." "Well, I'm flattered. Yes, my mother is chairman of our company." Apparently, David knew of her but was unaware of our family relationship. David was completely intimidated in the presence of my mother. "So, David, I've heard everything. My son seems to be under your care. However, your assertions are exactly as my son described." "Oh, well, that annual leave is legitimate, right of employees. You have no business to reprimand for that. And what about this unpaid overtime? Overtime for promotion? Which era are you living in?" Listen, work isn't about blindly putting in hours. It's most important to do it efficiently. Without proper balance, you can't perform well as a professional." I assumed you understood that, but maybe I was wrong. My mother, with a fixed smile, at David completely cowed. "Well, that's enough. I'm not here for work, but for leisure. I don't have the time to spare on you." Chairman, do you have something more for us? Any other business?" "Yikes, no, nothing good." "I'll inform you of your consequences later. Be prepared for that, Kevin. Let's go." "Yes," I said. Seeing my mother so livid after a long time, I couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Careful not to aggravate her further, I thought. I responded and walked past David, glancing at his face as we passed. I saw a man utterly crushed by despair. After that, my mother and I enjoyed our trip immensely and returned home very satisfied. The day after next, when I went back to work, David's seat was no longer in the sales department. It seemed that my mother had called HR from our trip. David's unreasonable treatment of his subordinates came to delight HR. They had already deemed him unfit for the managerial role, considering him just a stopgap until a more suitable person was hired. Of course, had he performed well, he could have kept his position, but his conduct had sealed his fate. It seemed that David had mistakenly believed he earned his position through his own merit when, in reality, it was more of a fluke. This misperception led to his tyrannical behavior, resulting in an immediate transfer. He was transferred to the logistics department, a place so hot it makes you sweat like a waterfall, where physical strength is essential. The nature of the work there meant it was mostly populated by young, physically strong men, making it a somewhat sweaty environment. David to that logistics department. I doubt he'll be able to keep up. He's probably aiming for voluntary resignation. Well, considering what he's done, it's a fitting consequence. Anyway, with him gone, we can work more efficiently again, which is a relief. Yes, no more unnecessary overtime or working on holidays. It seems we're heading back to a peaceful work environment. Everyone gossiped, but no one truly seemed worried about David. He was probably feeling marginalized now, sweating profusely in the logistics department. I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for him. In the sales department, the position of the next department head was left vacant for a while, and the manager, Steve, temporarily took on the role. We made a mistake with an interim personal decision, thinking it was just for a short while. I apologize for the great inconvenience caused to everyone. The HR department, seemingly reflecting on their actions, came all the way to the sales department to leave words of apology. It seems my mother, though retired as the active chairman, reconsidered the need to keep an eye on the company's internal affairs. The current president, who had been my mother's competent right hand for years, also received a word from her and sent an apology. In the sales department, we were just glad to have our peaceful work environment back and felt almost embarrassed to be apologized to by various parties. Soon after his transfer to logistics, David left the company. It's unclear whether the transfer was a move to encourage his resignation, but working under younger employees must have been unbearable for him, and physically it must have been quite demanding. He was really put through the ringer, someone commented. It's ironic for someone who hated taking orders. He couldn't have lasted long. Such rumours faded within a week. Later, I was summoned by my mother to the reception room. "Kevin, sorry for the sudden call." "It's fine, but what's up?" "Something else happened." "No, it's different." "I was hoping you'd be ready to accept a promotion soon." "A promotion?" "Yes, I'm very grateful you joined our company. I know you've continued to work in the field based on Michael's advice, and you have your own goals and pride in your current job. I think I understand all that." "Then why suddenly?" "It's not sudden. I've been thinking about it for a long time. It's not just me. The president and the HR department agree." "Really, that was surprising to hear, Kevin. Since you joined the company, we haven't had a proper discussion. So, let me say this now. I hope, if possible, you can work towards becoming the next president of the company." "That is certainly. Since I joined the company you founded, I thought about it eventually, but I still have so much to learn, and I still want to be out in the field." "I understand. But our company's work isn't just about being in the field. Certainly, there are things you can't understand and experience unless you're on site. However, there are also things you can only understand and learn by being in a leadership position, directing others." I understood what my mum was saying. I felt the same way when I first joined the company. I was fully intent on eventually taking over as president. However, after working in the textile industry for 10 years, I grew increasingly anxious about whether I could handle such a big responsibility. I told my mom, "Please let me think about it." I called Michael on the weekend. He had successfully undergone surgery and was now enjoying a peaceful retirement. "I haven't been in touch for a while," I said. "It's been a long time." I discussed the recent events and my mum's proposal with Michael. Honestly, I'm more anxious than confident right now. I worry that standing at the top in this state of mind will only make everyone else uneasy, I confessed. Then Michael quietly said, "Do you have time now? It's your day off, right?" "Yes," I replied. "Then bring me the highest quality fabric sample you're handling right now," he instructed me. I quickly grabbed what I believed to be the best fabric sample I was handling and went to Michael's house. After showing him the sample, Michael commented, "You've really come to understand, haven't you?" He smiled kindly. "It's proof that you've built up solid experience in the field. You should be fine." His words resonated deeply with me. I felt acknowledged for the first time and was moved. "Thank you, I really appreciate it," I said. And that feeling gradually turned into confidence. Encouraged by Michael, I decided to accept my mother's wishes. I was anxious about what others would think of my promotion, being inexperienced in many areas. But when I was actually promoted to manager, everyone seemed happier than I was. "Kevin, congratulations. It's as if it's my own promotion. I'm so happy. Finally, I was wondering why you hadn't been given a position until now. Congratulations, everyone." "Thank you. I may cause some inconvenience by being inexperienced and only knowing the field." "Not at all. We all know how much you've contributed to the company. Don't worry, We'll support you in whatever way we can. Thank you, really, thank you. The sound of applause was heartwarming. With my promotion to manager, Steve was promoted to department head. As a sales department, we had a foundation to move forward unitedly. Once again after my promotion, I became more proactive in training and guiding within the department. Even though juniors had asked for my guidance before, I was mostly out in the field, so I wasn't often in the office, especially the new female employee who had wanted to ask me many things, benefited from my new focus on sharing knowledge and sales expertise. Perhaps as a result, the company's performance improved. Jess, is there something you still don't understand? No, it's not that. Kevin, do you have a girlfriend? Oh, what? The new female employee asked such a personal question. Looks like spring has finally come for Kevin. Others teased me. I spent several years living through such days. I was promoted to department head, recognized for my achievement as a manager. At first, I was filled with anxiety about my new role, but now I am fully resolved to take over as president when the time comes. This is all thanks to my mother, who showed me the value of hard work from a young age, Michael, whom I respect, and everyone at the company who has supported me. Their encouragement has built my confidence and contributed to the company's growth. Kevin, President Wilson, good to see you. Likewise. How are you finding the department head role? Well, I'm still feeling quite inexperienced. Haha, you're really humble. Quite different from your mother. I occasionally join in for drinks, savouring these moments. He has worked under my mother for a long time. I want to learn as much as I can from him now, about his vision for the company and his approach to leadership. I don't want to rely on my mother's influence. I want to earn recognition for my own abilities. To do this, I'm willing to work hard, even if it means getting my hands dirty. Perhaps sensing my intentions, President Wilson shares various experiences with me. You look much more mature now. Maybe it's just a parent's pride, but you really seem dependable, she says. Hearing her say that, I can't help but feel it's true. Until now, I've been focused solely on fieldwork and my own responsibilities. That was what was required and expected of me. But as my responsibilities have grown, so has my perspective. It's a natural progression, and I need to adapt. Of course, there are things I need to oversee from a higher level, but sometimes it's important to return to the field perspective, ensuring the well-being of the employees and the appropriateness of personnel management. It's precisely because I've always been in the field that I can think this way. My time in the field has broadened my horizons. Still, I remain inexperienced. Just appointed as a manager, I find the thought of aspiring to be president presumptuous. But for everyone who believes in me, who follows me, I want to quickly grow into a role I can be confident in. I aspire to take on that position as soon as possible with confidence in my abilities. There's still much to learn from my mother, Michael, President Wilson, and everyone else. I'll keep my feet on the ground and strive to be a president that would not be an embarrassment. That's my resolve. Every night, I strain my ears to hear her voice. A faint and secretive voice from the other side of the wall. I'm intrigued by that voice from the thin wall every evening. What kind of secrets is she hiding? Ah, look, I can hear it faintly again. Tonight, I pressed my ear against the wall to listen to her secretive voice. My name is Chris, and I'm turning 28 this year. I work for an ID startup. I chose this company because I was impressed by the CEO who founded it. He started the company when he was in college. In no time, he rose to the top of the industry. Of course, he's good at his job, But I think his charismatic nature is what really draws people in. I would say that he is a people person. When the CEO convinces you of something, it's hard to resist. I looked up to him. Someday, I wanted to start my own company just like him and rule from the top. That was my goal. I've been working hard, and people inside the company think pretty highly of me. Even outside, a few folks recognize my name. I'm always grateful, because I feel the CEO favors and supports me. Then one day, the CEO personally called me in. I thought he had a new job for me, so I kept my spirits up before entering his office. After knocking, I heard his voice saying, "Come in." With a large window behind him, the CEO said, looking confident, "Chris, I have a job for you." He began without any preamble. "If it's something I can do, I'll give it my all," I replied. The CEO seemed pleased with my response. Of course, he probably never expected me to answer any differently. "I think everything's going just as he predicted." "I want you to get married," he said with a solid tone. I didn't expect any refusal. I doubt anyone in the company could stand up to the CEO when he's this determined. "Understood. Who's the woman?" I replied, trying to stay as calm as possible. The CEO then made a call to summon someone. Since it's an internal line, it means the woman is an employee at our company. I had a hunch at this point. There's been talk of a woman rumored to be the CEO's mistress within the company. Of course, the CEO is a married man. I'm just being used as a diversion. Excuse me. After a polite knock, the person who walked in was just who I had suspected. An accountant named Catherine. I believe she's about a year older than me. For an ID startup employee, she's quite plain and unremarkable. I can only recall having brief business-related conversations with her. "Chris has agreed to everything, Catherine. You'll marry Chris." The CEO's words Catherine quietly nodded. She looked at me, tilted her head slightly, and said, "Pleased to be working with you." I couldn't read anything from that expression. It wasn't emotionless, but I couldn't tell what she was thinking. That's how I ended up as a guy who won the CEO's mistress. After a secret office romance, I thought the fake marriage would be just about living together, but we actually got legally married. Couldn't fool the HR department. The CEO provided a new apartment and furnished it entirely for us. It's a marriage with all the bells and whistles. I've decided to keep it a secret from my parents for now. I'll just wing it. If they ever find out, it'll be just a year. They probably won't hear about it in my hometown, out of state. The CEO's order was to divorce after about 6 months to a year, probably when his wife's suspicions cleared up. It's a fake marriage, so we have separate rooms, no intimacy allowed, just like roommates. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, we just took photos. She looked surprisingly beautiful in her white dress, which was a shock. The thick glasses she usually wears were the problem. I didn't know her real face until we took the photos. On our first night as a married couple, she bowed her head to me slowly. "I'm truly sorry for all the trouble because of Jay and Sims. Please bear with it for a while. John is the CEO. His full name is Jonathan," I figured. So, the rumors about him having a mistress were true. All I could say was, "Oh, okay. If I can endure for half a year to a year, my promotion is guaranteed. But I wonder if she's promised something after that time. Does she intend to always live in the shadows?" Such deep thoughts crossed my mind, but I tried not to dwell on it. I didn't want to get too involved. On the third night of our fake marriage, I woke up in the middle of the night. The beer I had before bed made me thirsty. I left my room to get water from the fridge in the kitchen. The hallway was pitch dark and silent. Then I heard a faint whisper. It was so soft I couldn't make it out clearly. A truly secretive voice. It took me a moment to realize it was Catherine's voice, because the voice was so unbelievably gentle, speaking softly with someone while occasionally laughing. "John, don't laugh too much or he'll wake up." It seemed Catherine was on the phone with the CEO. "Currently, it's 2:30 in the morning. They sure seem like they're sneaking around." I tried my best to walk down the hallway without making any noise. I didn't want to rudely interrupt their moment. Playing the role of a husband in a fake marriage is no walk in the park. I sighed, dropped on caffeine and the CEO's whispered conversation through the thin wall. I know it's ethically wrong, but this has become a habit of mine. Catherine and I continued our fake marriage. We barely talk even when we're both home. It's not out of boredom, but I'd like to dip my toes into their secret world every now and then. Maybe I could find some weakness in the CEO. Information is power in this world. The more you know, the closer you are to winning. Tonight, the two of them started their whispered conversation again. Through the wall, I could hear Catherine's voice full of compassion. Of course, I couldn't hear the CEO's voice. However, her comforting words seemed to be constantly cheering him up. And they also healed me. "Are you okay? Are you tired? Are you eating properly?" Such simple and kind words. I wonder if he was trying to make her laugh, but she giggled quite a bit. Even though they were in a relationship, I never heard them say "I love you." It was just her constantly worrying about him and cheering him up. It's a strange kind of affair. The change in our pretend marriage came about a month after our wedding. She figured out that I had been eavesdropping on our conversations with the CEO. Like always, after she said goodnight, she hung up the phone. I thought I could just go to bed. "Chris, we need to talk." Suddenly Catherine's voice echoed through the wall. I froze on the spot, not sure how to respond. I considered playing dead, but Seren delivered the coup de grace. "I know you're awake. Come out to the living room right now." It felt like she was negotiating with a hostage taker. I gave in, leaving my room for the living room. Catherine followed shortly after. I braced myself for confrontation, ready to apologize. I looked up but was momentarily stunned, caught off guard. I forgot my apology and just stared. She was wearing what seemed to be her high school tracksuit, an emblem and a name embroidered on the matching top and bottoms. And she was wearing even thicker black rim glasses than she had during the day. It was quite a surprising look. After their intimate conversations, I was expecting something more seductive, but this had zero appeal. In front of me flabbergasted me. Catherine quickly brewed some tea for us. "Eavesdropping is not acceptable. It's against the rules, isn't it?" I was accused, and it irked me. Breaking the rules. A fake marriage is also breaking the rules. Hell, having an affair might as well be breaking the rules. To hear breaking the rules from your lips, Catherine, you sure can say that with a straight face. I intended to apologize, but ended up making a sharp retort. I guess the stress of this fake marriage had been building up. It's not entirely Catherine's fault, but I felt like all the blame was on her. I greatly admire the CEO. The CEO is not at fault. I'm well aware. This is a biased opinion. "I follow my own rules," she said so firmly that I was left speechless. She gestured for me to sit on the living room couch. I sat in silence, facing her directly. It was the first time I'd really looked at her since this fake marriage began. "Please, no more eavesdropping. It's an invasion of privacy." Hearing her straightforward point triggered me. I did agree to this fake marriage as a part of a deal with the co. They probably see me as a pitiful man who was led by ambition. Perhaps even looked down upon, Realizing this, I felt a mix of shame and unreasonable anger. I wanted to unleash all of my anger onto Catherine, who sat in front of me with a composed look. My clenched fists trembled with rage. "Don't you have anything to say?" Her matter-of-fact tone made my restraint fly out the window. "What? Who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty while being the CEO's mistress? Without this fake marriage, you wouldn't even have a place here." I stood up abruptly, but she calmly looked up at me, lifting her chin just a bit. There was no emotion on her face. It seemed my words didn't get to her at all. "You probably laugh behind my back, thinking I'm a low-life for accepting such a ridiculous deal for my own advancement, right?" Pathetic. Ranting on, I was practically full with rage. This fake marriage made me despise myself for the first time. I feel like such a fool. Indeed, all the words that I lashed out at Kafir and were what I wanted to hurl at myself. You should be proud of yourself, Chris. You accepted the dirty job based on your beliefs. There's nothing to be ashamed of, she said, looking me straight in the eyes. From her tone and sincere expression, I could tell she wasn't just trying to console me with empty words. Her words deflated my anger instantly, and I was taken aback. "Chris, you're a man of conviction." Feeling weak in the knees, I sat back on the couch. How did she know exactly what I needed to hear? "I'm sorry I took out my frustrations on you." When I think about it, Catherine is also a victim of the CEO's ego. Seeing her serious face, I began to calm down. "You've heard the rumours about me and the CEO, haven't you?" It seems his wife found out about them. Catherine explained everything step by step. I hadn't heard any details from the CEO. She took the initiative to talk to me, thinking it would be stressful for me in such a situation. It seems the CEO had Catherine and me enter into a fake marriage to deceive his wife. If we went as far as getting married, suspicions would naturally be cleared. It's apparently a matter of patience until his wife lets her guard down. Can I ask you just one thing? If I can answer it. I posed a question that had been on my mind for a long time. Are you the CEO's mistress? There are indeed rumours in the company that the two of them are in a romantic relationship. But that's based on minor things like seeing them walking closely together or meeting privately. There's no concrete proof of a romantic relationship. I wanted to clear this up. Catherine looked slightly troubled by my question. She seemed to be pondering the best way to answer, opening her mouth, then closing it again. She hesitated. How can I put this to make it clear to you? I'm not sure if I'd call it a romantic relationship. However, I do feel that the CEO looks out for me. I felt there wasn't a trace of deceit in her carefully chosen words. I see. Thank you for sharing. Her tone and sincere expression deflated my anger instantly. Here's a suggestion for me. Since it's a fake marriage, why don't we try to enjoy it a bit? Catherine looked genuinely surprised by my proposal. I've never seen her with such a shocked expression. She looked adorable, like a surprised squirrel. Oh, I don't mean it in a weird way. I'm talking about enjoying our 10 years of married life. It'd be tough to keep using formal language with each other for 6 months, especially since we worked together. Being distant might come off as odd, don't you think? Catherine listened to me with a tilted head. Then, with a chuckle, she extended her right hand. "Well, let's make the best of it, shall we, husband?" When I shook her hand, it was small, and it gave me a slight thrill. Ever since that night where we had an honest conversation, the distance between Catherine and I has been rapidly shrinking. We commute together, and I eat the lunch she prepares for me. When one of us has to work late, we let each other know. Whoever has more free time handles the chores. Living together, You get to see sides of her you wouldn't have known at the office, like how she burns her tongue easily or hates mushrooms, or how she's not the best at folding laundry, or how she dreams of adopting a canine from a rescue centre. I love watching her laugh out loud at comedy shows by my side, but that's where my exclusive time with her ends. Late at night, she gets calls from the CEO. Whenever the phone rings, she retreats to her room for a private conversation with him. I feel completely left out. Every day the nights feel lonelier, and it bothers me. The CEO remains unchanged. He treats both me and her the same way as before. I was getting a bit irritated by his attitude. Did he really trust her? Or did he not think for a moment that she could fall for me? By the time half a year had passed, I realized I was in love with Catherine, but in her heart there was only room for the CEO. I was fully aware of that, yet I couldn't let go of that slight hope. I was told that this fake marriage would last between 6 months to a year. I was surprised at myself for wishing this life would go on forever. Time has passed, and it was halfway through our fake marriage. Catherine and I had a rhythm going, understanding each other's likes and dislikes much like a real couple. On weekends, she joined me in my passion for outdoor activities, even trying camping for the first time. Now she's eager to try solo camping. Lately, we've spent every weekend shopping at outdoor stores. For me, I've become a fan of the tea she brews after meals. She looks so dignified and beautiful, gracefully preparing her tea. When I expressed a desire to learn the art of tea making, she introduced me to a class, and now we attend together. After our tea class, we always grab some burgers together. She gets as excited as a child when I take her to a new tasty spot. I wish this happy life would continue forever. Just when I started to wish from the bottom of my heart, something happened at my office desk. I was occupied with loads of work today. I had plans to dine out with her. There's no way I could work late. That's when I spotted her sneaking between the desks. In her hand, she held an envelope and a list, probably collecting money for some occasion. Whenever there's something to celebrate or mourn at the office, Catherine, being in accounting, collects the funds. It was a familiar sight. "I'm sorry for interrupting your work. I'm here to collect some money." She stood next to my desk. "Is someone getting married or did something unfortunate happen?" I asked her while searching for my wallet. I could sense a hint of tension in her posture. She was behaving differently. So I looked up. Her face was as expressionless as always, but now I could tell she was desperately hiding her emotions. The CEO's wife is pregnant, so it's a celebration. My hand jerked in surprise, dropping my wallet, coins scattered on the floor with a clicking sound. The CEO's baby. But Catherine bent down to carefully pick up the coins. "Well, the CEO has been married for 5 years now. It's about time, right? It's wonderful news," she said flatly, placing the coins gently in my palm. "I'll come back later to collect. Take your time," she said, and left, her retreating figure looking smaller than ever. Watching her back, anger towards the CEO welled up in me. He tricked Catherine, pretending to be loyal to his wife all the while. Catherine had been waiting for him. What's the point of our fake marriage? I was suddenly filled with resentment towards the CEO. I need to talk to him. I headed towards the CEO's office. Just as I was about to knock, the CEO's secretary opened the door. He looked surprised and said, "Perfect timing." Apparently he was about to call me. Nodding to the secretary, I entered the CEO's office. The CEO seemed just as I remembered him, recognizing me. He gestured for me to come closer. "You've worked hard till now. I've arranged the position you wanted. The fake marriage is over," he said. Then he handed me something, a name tag with a new title on it. Among my colleagues, it was an unbelievably rapid promotion. It was everything I had aimed for since joining the company. Aren't you going to be more excited? Now you can finally date freely. Plus, with this position, you'll have your pick of the ladies, right? The CEO, however, his eyes aren't laughing. You're no longer needed. I'll be taking Catherine back. Anger surged as the words left the CEO's mouth. Catherine isn't an object. The way the CEO casually mentioned taking her back infuriated me. Isn't she free to live her life? Do you plan on keeping her trapped and making her suffer forever? It was the first time I'd ever stood up to the CEO, but I felt that I had to say something. Pretty noble words coming from a guy who faked a marriage for a position. The CEO laughed sarcastically, looking at me with disdain. I might have been intimidated before, but not now. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I don't need this position because I have no intention of divorcing her. She's already my wife, I blurted out, staring down the CEO. The CEO frowned in displeasure. Who do you think you are? You think you're in this position by yourself, and that you can have Catherine. Get over yourself. The CEO yelled at me. The usually composed CEO was yelling. If you want divorce, you are fired. Can you really give up the position you wanted so desperately? You've always been so ambitious, the CEO, and I locked eyes, tension filling the room. Then, without a knock, the door to the CEO's office swung open. John, don't my feelings matter to you? It was Catherine. Her face wasn't its usual expressionless self. Her face crumpled, tears shimmering in her eyes. Catherine, could it be you too? The CEO's voice hardened at Catherine's expression. I want divorce. I no longer need your protection, John. You have a duty to make your wife happy. With that, she turned and gave me a smile. I was taken aback and speechless. It was the first time I heard her true feelings. Chris respects my freedom. He teaches me new things and tries to share the same view as me. I don't want to wait any more for what's to be given. The CEO, after hearing her words, slumped into his chair and held his head. What did I do wrong? You said you wanted me to wait, so I did without laying a hand on you. I even proposed a fake marriage to protect you. What did I do wrong? Are you abandoning me too? She seemed to chew on the CEO's groaning words. John, you have to realize I'm just a convenient little sister figure for you, right? It's also hard for me to continue deceiving you with kind gestures. The CEO looked up at her, his eyes resembling those of a forsaken child. She wore a compassionate smile. I will become Chris's wife, a real wife, through sickness and old age, always together. She smiled, and I nodded strongly. Our hands clenched tightly, hers responding with a gentle squeeze. Thank you for everything, CEO. I bowed to the man I'd always admired. Both of you, get out. Don't show your faces again. Leave the apartment as soon as possible. Energetically, we replied, Sure, as we exited his office. Catherine and I then resigned together and quickly moved out of the apartment. I'm glad that it was you that I married for the fake marriage, she said, this as we left the building. Let's look forward to starting today. The pleasure is all mine, my sweetie, she whispered into my ear, making me jump. I blushed, covering my ears, and Catherine burst into laughter. It seems Catherine always had the upper hand. I had a feeling I'd be under her thumb, but I thought it would be fun. As long as I'm with her, I may have lost the career success I dreamed of, but I gained something much more precious. I believe I'm the real winner in life. I will make you happy no matter what, I told her earnestly. She laughed and said, I'm counting on it. I'm willing to bet my entire life on meeting her expectations. At my usual bar, sipping on my regular whiskey on the rocks, I was suddenly addressed by a familiar voice from behind. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Why are you there of all places? I turned around with a feeling of disgust, as if I were scratching a glass with my nails. To my surprise, it was my ex-wife, Olivia. Olivia, what brings you here? That was my reply. Well, I like the ambience of this place, and I've taken a liking to it. It's a bit pricey, but my husband earns well, so the high prices suit us just fine. You, on the other hand, don't earn so much, so coming here must be quite a stretch for you, right? It's pathetic to see you trying to punch above your weight. Or perhaps you decided to blow all your savings for today, poor thing. I could buy you a drink out of pity if you'd like. Olivia stood there looking down at me as I sat, wearing such a cheap shirt. You really do look ridiculous. Despite my intention to ignore Olivia's remarks, I couldn't help but feel slightly irritated. However, I knew better than to lose my cool, as that would only play into our hands. I just wished she would leave me alone and move to another seat. My pleasant time enjoying my drink was completely ruined. Then, to my dismay, Olivia decided to sit next to me. Feeling all right? You're probably still stuck in that dreary little salon, working as a hired hairstylist, living on a meagre salary for life. How pitiful. On the contrary, my husband is about to be promoted to manager. Unlike you, he's a competent individual. It's astonishing how different you two are, despite being brothers. I really made the right choice by leaving you. Olivia continued to spew her venomous words. Being bombarded with so much sarcasm, I almost started to wonder if this was some kind of twisted service mentality. It might be Olivia's own way of providing entertainment, trying to amuse me. No, that couldn't be it. I shook my head to clear those thoughts and reminded myself once again of how terrible my ex-wife truly was. After all, Olivia was the woman who, while married to me, seduced my brother and then divorced me to marry him. The fact that such an awful person exists outside of TV drama still sends shivers down my spine. Wanting nothing to do with her, I resolved to keep my responses as neutral as possible. So, Nov is moving up in the world. Congratulations, that's what I said to Olivia. She, such a pitiful younger brother. Olivia continued to look down on me with disdain. Then, a regular patron of the bar, Ava, who had been silently listening to our entire conversation, spoke up. Ava and I often met at this bar and shared stories with each other. Excuse me, I don't know what your relationship with Michael is, but you sure are arrogant. Listening to you is quite unpleasant. I don't know who you think you are, but do you even know anything about him? Michael, who's sitting right here, I hardly said to Ava. Ava, it's okay. There's no need for you to say anything. But Ava, tilting her wine glass with a triumphant look, said to me, You should just speak up. Why not put this superficial, vile woman in her place? Hearing this, Olivia raised her voice. What the? Who do you think you are, madam? It's rude to speak like that to someone you've just met. Mind your own business. Ignoring Olivia's words, Ava continued, Rude? That's funny coming from you, who's far ruder. But go ahead, take a good look with those murky eyes of yours, Mason. Show this rude woman the magazine from earlier, please. Ava called out to Mason, the bar owner. Mason placed an issue of the internationally renowned fashion magazine Beauty Woman, abbreviated as BW, on the counter where the three of us were seated. Wait, what is this? Olivia was taken aback as she looked at the cover of the magazine. My name is Michael. I grew up in a town just outside of New York, in a family of 4. My father, mother, brother Noah, and myself. My father was known to be good at drawing since he was a child and aimed for art school after high school. But after failing the entrance exams 3 times, he gave up on his dream. Having entered the workforce with just a high school diploma, he struggled to find a well-paying job. My mother, who was quite naive and sheltered, married my father by chance and resented him for their life of poverty and his lack of higher education. Because of this, Noah and I were raised with our mother constantly drilling into us that getting into a high-ranking school is the most important thing in life. Noah sincerely believed in what we were taught and never neglected his studies, even during the busy times of club activities in middle school. Eventually, advancing to a high school with a high academic standard, in high school he maintained top grades and went on to attend a prestigious university from which he graduated. However, I was not influenced by either my mother or Noah. Despite giving up on art school, my father would paint as a hobby on weekends and visit exhibitions of acquaintances who were painters. I was influenced by my father and shaped by his character. I'm going to check out some paintings at a gallery in Chelsea. Want to come along? I was often invited by my father on Sundays like this, and while my brother Noah had no interest at all, I was fascinated by art, so I frequently joined him on such outings. My father had many acquaintances in the art world, and as a child, I had many opportunities to meet artists who were friends of my father. This influenced my decision to become a hairdresser, leading me to enroll in a beauty school instead of high school after graduating from middle school. Most of my classmates went on to high school, and it's not that I didn't consider it. I thought that following my mother's advice to graduate from a good university and secure a job at a stable company was a perfectly fine path. But since Noah had already taken that path, I felt I didn't need to, and there was another reason. When I was in 9th grade, I overheard my mother saying to my father late at night, "How are we going to afford Michael's further education? With just Noah's tuition and tutor fees, our finances are already stretched." Then, though I felt guilty for even dropping that, it became the deciding factor for me to feel that it was okay not to go to university. Admittedly, beauty school also required tuition, but I managed by working part-time to cover the costs and my personal expenses. I enjoyed my studies in beauty, which seemed to suit me well. Therefore, I never doubted that I was leading a successful life, and at 18, I was content with my job as an apprentice hairdresser, even though the pay was low. 2 years after entering the workforce, I was recognized as a hairdresser and started living independently. Life was tough, but manageable if I kept my expenses in check. Then, a turning point came after a class reunion when we turned 18. "It's been a while, Michael." I was approached like this by Olivia, who was a classmate in elementary and middle school. Hi. I didn't remember her. No wonder, despite attending the same elementary and middle schools, we were only in the same class once, and that one time was merely because she transferred to my school during the 3rd term of 3rd grade. In other words, we were only classmates for about 2 months. Forgotten by you, Michael. That's a shock. Olivia's words made me feel guilty. At 18, she was very beautiful, and given my work-focused, romance-free lifestyle, it's true that she caught my attention a bit. She asked for my contact information, we kept in touch, and even she asked me out, so before I knew it, we were dating. She had a strong desire to marry, and after some contemplation, we registered our marriage. At 23, as a hairdresser in a small suburban salon, I wasn't financially well off. We couldn't afford a lavish wedding, nor could we live luxuriously after marriage. I thought it would be better to wait until my income increased, But Olivia wanted to marry right now and wouldn't listen to reason. So I resolved myself to it. I wasn't living a wealthy life yet, but I was determined to gradually increase my income. After all, it wasn't just about me anymore. I had a family now. After registering our marriage, I dedicated even more time to studying beauty-related subjects in my spare time. The owner of the salon where I worked even discussed a possible promotion to manager, leaving me constantly pondering whether to accept or seek opportunities elsewhere. It happened just as things were coming to a head, about a year after we got married. "Hi, we need to talk." I received a message from Noah, with whom I didn't usually communicate much. Wondering what it was about, I replied, "What's up?" And he asked to meet in person. So we arranged to meet after work the next day at the cafe where we agreed to meet. Not only North was waiting, but to my surprise, Olivia was there too. I came to talk to Noah today. Why is Olivia here?" I asked, completely baffled by the situation, and took a seat opposite North and Olivia. "I'm really sorry, Michael." North apologized deeply to me. Olivia remained silent. "What are you apologizing for?" I felt a strange discomfort in the air, making even a coffee tasteless. I should be the one to say it, not Noah. Olivia spoke up. I couldn't believe my ears. "I'm sorry, Michael. I want to divorce you and be with Noah," Olivia stated firmly. I was utterly confused. "I don't understand what you're saying." That was all I could muster in response. "I've grown to dislike our marriage, and I've fallen in love with Noah," Olivia explained. "Wait, Olivia, do you realize what you're saying? You're married to me, right? Falling in love with my brother, don't you think that's wrong? How did things end up like this?" I was lost, unable to figure out who was in the wrong or what went wrong. "I know it's wrong to be with your wife, but Olivia's passion moved me too," Noah admitted. At that moment, something snapped inside me. I had resolved to protect my wife as family once we decided to marry, even though I was still unreliable, aiming to improve gradually. But Olivia had decided on her own to divorce me, and she involved my brother. I recalled her frequent late returns, but I too often came home late from work and thought she was just busy with her job. Was she meeting Noah all this time? I didn't know how it happened, nor did I want to know any more. The fact was, my brother and wife were sitting in front of me, both saying the same thing. "Fine, do as you please," I was disgusted. I left the cafe. However, since Olivia and I lived together, she returned home after I did. The atmosphere was awkward, but I confronted her. "I wish you had spoken up if you were dissatisfied with me," Olivia replied. "I like you as a person, Michael, but I prefer Noah because he has a higher education and income." I was trembling with anger. Yet, knowing that women might seek education and income, I tried to calm myself, thinking it was inevitable. "Sorry for not earning more, but did you have to go about it this way?" I managed to keep my cool as I said this. Olivia simply stated, "I'm not to blame," and went to her room. Watching her leave, I felt utterly indifferent. Even if I was at fault for not providing enough, wanting to remarry my brother, and if Olivia only saw Noah as a man with high education and income, it seemed like she was just using him conveniently. I thought Noah was crazy to consider being with his brother's wife, but he was supposed to be a serious, hard-working person. True, he was stubborn and strong. We'd married because of his earnestness. I worried that Noah was being manipulated by Olivia. "Noah, think it over again," Olivia said. "She wants to marry you because you are well educated and have a high income. If she doesn't truly love you, I'm worried about the future." I messaged him that night, but his reply was disappointing. It's uncool to say such things just because you want to keep Olivia. I was disheartened. I had no lingering feelings for Olivia. In fact, I doubted her character, so I wanted to warn my brother to prevent him from becoming another victim. But this was ultimately a matter of personal judgment between adults, so I felt I couldn't say anything more to Noah, and so I agreed to the divorce. I felt neither loneliness nor regret. Instead, I felt a sense of relief to avoid worrying our parents and Olivia's. I assured them, "We've discussed this thoroughly and are all in agreement, so please don't worry." After the divorce was finalized, I never saw Noah or Olivia again. I made sure to visit my family home on different days to avoid crossing paths with them. And then 3 years went by. By that time, I was living my days, hardly ever thinking about my ex-wife and brother. For a while after the divorce, I was frequently overwhelmed by a sense of unbearable sadness and went through some tough times. I felt no sorrow whatsoever for losing Olivia. It was the memory of my wife and brother wanting to marry each other during our marriage that made me distressed for a while. However, time is the greatest healer, and after 3 years, my wounds had healed and the flashbacks had ceased. I was living a peaceful and happy life. Then, one day after work, I stopped by my usual bar. Little did I know at the time that something unbelievable was about to happen. Here, as I sit, my usual whiskey on the rocks at the counter, I was suddenly addressed by a familiar voice from behind. "Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Why are you here of all places?" I turned around with a feeling of disgust, as if I were scratching a glass with my nails. To my surprise, it was my ex-wife, Olivia. "Olivia, what brings you here?" That was my reply. "Well, I like the ambience of this bar, and it's a bit pricey, but my husband earns well, so it suits us just fine. You, on the other hand, must be stretching your budget to come here. Trying to act above your station is just pathetic. Or did you decide to splurge all your savings today, poor thing? I could buy you a drink out of pity if you'd like." Olivia stood there, looking down at me seated, and rambled on by herself. I chose to remain silent, listening to her without engaging, knowing that arguing would only bring me down to her level. Undeterred, Olivia continued, "Wearing such a cheap shirt, you really do look ridiculous." Despite my intention to ignore her, I couldn't help but feel a bit irritated by her comments. However, getting angry would only play into her hands, so I kept my cool. All I wanted was for her to leave me alone and move to another seat. My pleasant time enjoying my drink was completely ruined. Then, unbelievably, Olivia decided to sit next to me. "2 Care Royale, please." Olivia ordered from Mason, the bartender, and within 3 minutes, 2 Care Royals were placed in front of us with a thud. "Here you go," handed one of the drinks to Olivia. I nearly fell off my chair. "Wait, this is for me." Surprised, I said that, and Olivia replied, "Of course, it's not like I'm going to drink both at the same time." I'm not really into sweet drinks, mixing sweet liquor with sweet juice. I just don't get it, I said to myself, truly perplexed. But not wanting to cause a scene by refusing Olivia's offer, I simply said, "Thank you," and accepted the glass filled with a murky-coloured drink. Doing all right, still slaving away in that run-down little salon, I bet. Living on such a meagre salary is just pitiful. Unlike you, my husband is about to be promoted to manager. It's amazing how 2 brothers can be so different. I really made the right choice by leaving you. Olivia went on a tirade, all by herself again, dripping with sarcasm. Being bombarded with so much sarcasm, I almost started to wonder if this was some kind of cued service mentality. It might be Olivia's own way of providing entertainment, trying to amuse me. Or maybe not. I shook my head to clear it and reminded myself of just how terrible my ex-wife really was. After all, Olivia was the woman who, while married to me, seduced my brother and then divorced me to remarry him. The fact that such an awful person exists, not just in dramas, but in reality, still sends shivers down my spine. Wanting nothing more to do with her, I resolved to keep my responses as non-committal as possible. "Nova's moving up in the world, congratulations," I said to Olivia. What a pitiful younger brother. Olivia continued to look down on me with disdain. Then Ava, a regular patron who had been silently listening to our entire conversation, decided to speak up. Ava and I often met at this bar and would share stories with each other. "Hey you, I don't know what your relationship with Michael is, but you sure are arrogant. It's quite unpleasant to listen to. I don't know what your status is, but do you even know anything about him?" "Michael's sitting here," I quickly said to Ava. "Ava, it's okay." There's no need to say anything more. But Ava, tilting her wine glass with a triumphant look, said to me, "Michael should just speak up. Why not put this superficial, vile woman in her place?" Hearing this, Olivia raised her voice. Who do you think you are, madam? It's rude to speak like that to someone you've I just met. Mind your own business." Ignoring Olivia, Eva continued, "Rude? That's funny coming from you, who's far ruder. But go ahead, take a good look with those murky eyes of yours, Mason. Show this rude woman the magazine from earlier, please." Eva called out to Mason, the bar owner. "The magazine? Right here it is." Mason placed an issue of the internationally renowned fashion magazine Beauty Woman, abbreviated as BW, on the counter where the three of us were seated. "Wait, what is this?" Olivia was taken aback as she looked at the cover of the magazine. "That's right, the man on the cover is Michael," Eva said with even more pride. "No way. Isn't this a photo with the global music icon Maria Smith? What's going on?" Olivia, in panic, flipped through the magazine. "Wait, a 10-page feature on Marie and Michael." Olivia frantically flipped back and forth through the magazine, looking at the articles and photos. Then she demanded an explanation from me. "Explain this, Michael." Eva began to explain on my behalf. "As you can see, Michael has become the exclusive hair and makeup artist for the world-famous singer Maria. His talent has been highly praised, and he's been offered to do hair and makeup for models and fashion shows by famous designers who appear in Paris Fashion Week." While listening, Olivia kept muttering, "No way," in disbelief. Then she exclaimed, "But Michael, you were just a hairstylist in a small suburban salon. How did you rise so high all of a sudden?" "I participated in various contests while working as a hairstylist, even when we were married. I talked to you about it, but you looked down on me, didn't listen, and showed no interest. I didn't make it in domestic contests, but when I took a chance on international ones, I was recognized. That's how I got noticed by a famous hair and makeup artist trained under them, and then entered bigger contests. I won a grand prize in one of them, which led to my role as Maria's exclusive artist." Though I thought it unnecessary to explain all this to Olivia, Ava had already shared so much about me, so I reluctantly added my own explanation. "That's amazing, Michael," Olivia said, then added, "as expected of my ex-husband. I'm his ex-wife. Let's meet up as exes sometime. For starters, I'd love to get Maria's autograph. Can you introduce me to her in person?" I was astounded by her sudden change in attitude upon learning of my connections with famous people. "Truly superficial. You really are despicable. Stay away from Michael." I don't care if you're his ex-wife or whatever. You have no relation to him now. And by the way, you called Michael's shirt cheap earlier, but it's from a famous brand. You can't even recognize quality. AA raised her voice, but Olivia, undeterred, said, "Hey, Michael, actually, I've been regretting it. I think you were the better man after all. Noah has been all about work lately and doesn't pay attention to me. I'm lonely. Please, I'm going to divorce Noah anyway, so won't you give us another chance?" While she entered, wound her arm with mine, I instinctively shook her off, saying, "Stop it." Ava then remarked, "Michael, you really shook her off from the bottom of your heart. Well, of course, there's no way you'd get back together with such a woman." Because just then, as AA was about to continue, she exclaimed, "Speak of the devil." And I turned around in response to her shout, only to see a familiar figure, Emma, the woman I called Emma, was my girlfriend. Emma, don't get the wrong idea. Michael did nothing wrong. It's this woman who's at fault. She came on to him unilaterally. Ava explained on my behalf. "Yes, I saw everything. You're Olivia, Michael's ex-wife, right? He's shown me a photo of you before. I know how much Michael truly despises you. I've been watching for a distance for a while now. You're really shameless," Emma said. Ava laughed hard, saying, "The always quiet and kind Emma speaks such sharp words." And Olivia, turning pale, said, "Wait a minute, Emma, isn't she Michael's childhood friend?" Emma was taken aback. "Wait, how does she know about me? That's scary." Then a familiar male voice spoke up. "Olivia, what was that earlier, asking Michael to start over, getting so close to him?" "No, my brother and Olivia's husband stood there." "What?" "No. When did you get here?" Olivia flirted. "I saw you coming on to Michael. I heard everything. We're getting a divorce, you deceitful person," Noel said, his voice trembling. Then turning to Michael, "I know I wronged you by marrying Olivia in such a manner, but I've finally seen the light. I was naive, fooled by Olivia's convenient lies and deceit. I feel ashamed of myself. I sincerely apologize for hurting you, my brother. I truly am sorry. It's okay. I don't hold a grudge. If you've come to your senses, that's good. But maybe you should be more discerning about women," I said. And he replied, "You're right. I'll reflect on this. I'll start over after the divorce." Olivia, in panic, clung to Noah's arm. "No way. I won't accept a divorce." "What are you saying, Noah? Didn't we swear our love to each other?" But Noah, with a look of disgust, shook her arm. "Don't touch me. Regarding the divorce, I'll have my lawyer CT you." Olivia was in tears. But that's so cruel. I've loved you since we were kids. When I transferred in elementary school, you were so kind to me. I dreamt of marrying you someday. And when we met again at the reunion as adults, I was so happy we could date and then marry in the summer. She was just a girl from another school who attended the same swimming class as you in elementary school, right? I always saw you returning from the class with her, and now you're with her. That's so unfair. I loved you more," Olivia sobbed as she spoke. "I was dumbfounded. Then why did you decide to divorce me and remarry my brother while we were married? That's just cruel, isn't it? Do you understand how I felt when I was betrayed by both my wife and brother? Have you ever considered anyone else's feelings? You just want whatever you desire at the moment, right? That's childish thinking. No, even children can understand other people's pain. After our divorce, I struggled with insomnia because of the emotional pain. Then, through a friend from my hometown, I reconnected with Emma, who comforted and supported me during my tough times. She thought about my pain with me. And now, Olivia, you've hurt my brother Noel in front of him. You came on to me, asking to start over. How many times do you need to hurt people before you're satisfied? You're truly the worst. As I vented, Olivia tearfully said, "But it's natural to want a husband who is capable and are as well, right? I left you for Noah because he had a higher income. But now you have become successful and famous, so naturally I want to get back with you." Right in the next moment, Ava burst into laughter, saying, "Michael and Noah, this woman is unbelievable. Cut ties with her quickly." Then, turning to Olivia, AA said, "Olivia, I can somewhat understand your feelings, but fundamentally, you're wrong as a person. If you want, I'm always here at this bar. Come and see me, and I'll give you a Thor scolding to straighten you out." Then Mason interjected, "Once you enter Ava's lecture hell, even crying children go silent." Hearing this, I also added, "I know. I've seen several people shaken by her lecture hell right here." Mason and I chuckled together, but Noth and Olivia were frozen with expressionless faces. "I'll be staying at a hotel for the next 3 days. Leave the house within that time. I'll proceed with the divorce proceedings starting tonight," Noel said to Olivia, realizing he was serious. Olivia silently settled the bill with Mason and left the bar alone. "You did well to speak up. I roughly get the story. So you were deceived by that woman for a long time, right? Well, your sin is not forgivable. You have no choice but to reflect deeply. Michael here is a magnanimous man, so I think he'll forgive you for now. Buy Michael a drink and me too, while you're at it," Ava said, looking at Noah. Understanding, Mason replied, "Please get a drink for Michael, Ava, and also for Emma." Noah responded, "Then I made Noah sit 1 seat away from me, and I moved next to Emma at the counter. Today was supposed to be the anniversary of my marriage to Olivia. I never imagined it would turn out like this," Noah said, dejected. Eva silently comforted him by patting his shoulder. "But Noah, you're stubborn. Once you make up your mind, if you've decided to start over after leaving Olivia, I'm sure happiness will come your way," I encouraged him. "I'm sorry for being such a terrible brother who hurt you." "Thank you," Noah apologized. "Well, it's all good now. The evil spirit is gone. Cheers." AA raised her cocktail glass high, given by Noah. More importantly, today is a significant day for Michael. Forget about Noah. If you're truly repentant as a brother, celebrate his new beginning, Ava said to Noah. "A new beginning?" Noah asked that question. "Actually, I'm moving to France for a while because of work, so I took a small box out of my pocket. Emma, please come with me. Let's get married. I promise to make you happy." Inside the box was a ring. I had told Emma about moving to France, but it was the first time I asked her to come with me. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she answered strongly, "Thank you. I'd be happy to come with you. I'll support you as your wife for life." In the next moment, Mason quietly started clapping. Noticing this, Ava stood up and shouted, "Bravo," clapping loudly. The other customers in the bar also turned to us and joined in the applause. When I glanced over, Noah was crying tears of joy. Half a year passed, and I had expanded my work and network in France, achieving great success as a hair and makeup artist. Emma and I were living happily together. And then, after a long while, I returned to the US for a visit and went to my parents' house. My mother said something like this the other day. Olivia's parents came over to apologize. "We were worried when you and Olivia divorced, and she married Noah, but you told us. We all agreed on it. so don't worry. After talking with her parents, we finally understood the whole story. It was quite a mess. They seemed really sorry for raising Olivia to be so selfish. Well, I always thought you boys lacked judgment in women. My mother said this and laughed. She raised us with a belief in the absolute importance of a higher education, but now she's become more understanding and supports my career. Of course, my father is fully supportive of me too. By the way, Noel seems to be dating a woman his age that he met at work. I hope it works out for him this time, like it did for you and Emma. My mother shared this news with me. I was happy to hear it. I want Noah to be happy too. And now even for Olivia, I hope she learns from her mistakes, so her parents don't have to apologize for her again. At their age, everyone makes wrong choices in life. Of course, it's better not to make mistakes, but what matters is how you handle them afterward, I believe. Not everything in my future will be smooth sailing, but I'll cherish each moment and move forward. I have a place in France. There's still so much more to explore. Leaving my parents' house, I looked up at the sky, ready to board the plane.